Afternoon, everybody. Can I get a show of hands? How many people here are not from Southeast Asia? All right, and the rest of you are all locals. Thanks for the support. So we have TN, Matthew, and Loy. Before we start talking about building out of Southeast Asia, I think it's important for people to understand your stories for this space. So if you mind giving a quick introduction about how you got into this space and more importantly, where you were in your life, like geographically, career-wise, like where were you in that phase of life? So we can start with Tien.
Yeah, hi, I'm Tien, CEO, co-founder of Pendle. I got started in crypto as a hobbyist back in 2014 when I was doing a research for a professor on fintech. At that point in time, I think like fintech was still very heavily tied to, the entire crypto sector was very heavily tied to fintech. And yeah, just looking through various business models and ideas, and I thought like Bitcoin was very interesting. Was involved in the space as volunteers in a couple of projects, but I became professionally involved in crypto more seriously when I joined Kyber in 2017. So yeah, Loy here, former boss. But it was a fantastic opportunity because it opened a lot of doors. I got to see the evolution of DeFi, crypto as a whole at the front row seat. And I would attribute everything that I know about crypto today to the experience. It all started from the Kyber days. Yeah, I've always been in Southeast Asia, travel a lot, but primarily been based out of Southeast Asia my entire life.
And maybe I'll skip Matt just because Tien mentioned Loy. For how was your introduction to the space, and then how did you introduce Tien as well?
I was a PhD student at the National University of Singapore. Very early in my PhD career, I was given the opportunity to explore whatever that I want to do with my life. So that was the best part about NUS. Yeah, so I stumbled on a couple of articles about Bitcoin, and I was like, okay, this sounds interesting. I decided to basically, dive a little bit further into it. And I think a few months after that, the white paper of Ethereum was introduced, and everyone was talking about Ethereum everywhere, right? And basically, it opens a lot more opportunities for people to do stuff on top of Ethereum, because I think back then, I think Bitcoin was, at the stage in which anything that you want to do is going to cost a lot of discussion, and it's going to take years in order to do anything. And when Ethereum was introduced, it's the fresh new energy into the cryptocurrency space. So basically my whole PhD thesis was all about scaling public blockchain like Ethereum, making smart contracts smarter, more secure, right? So I actually wrote one of the first open source smart contract security scanner. It was around the time of the DAO hack in 2015. Got the opportunity to talk and meet a lot of Ethereum researchers in the early days, including Vitalik and a few other people. 2017, I think 2016, 2017, because we keep there were only a few meetups in Singapore back then, right, about crypto and blockchain, and that's how I got to know a lot of other people like Tien and a few other OG people in the space. 2017, when I was about to get out of my PhD, I decided to work on Kyber, and that was how it started. Yeah.
And Matt?
So I see a lot of friendly faces. So for those who don't know, probably unlike both Tien and Loy, so I had already been in the tech space for close to 15 years plus in the software industry, with and again, being there for 15 years previously was a long time. I guess I was getting restless, and like both of them here, I think I heard of Bitcoin in 2011, and being Asian, Malaysian, like this was it was like a money printing machine, right? So you could turn on your PC and you earn $2 and $3 back then. So that got me really intrigued, and it felt like the internet back in 1995 when I was still in uni. So so just started going a little bit deeper into it, and built some stuff on Bitcoin, and obviously when Ethereum came along, it was very intriguing. You could build this like programmable smart contracts on the blockchain. And since then, I think we've been really focused. It's a core focus on building out the data infrastructure, making that data available for public, and hopefully allowing users to use that data to make informed decisions. So yeah.
And so you know how TN met Loy. How did Matt meet the other two?
Okay. Okay. So I think with Loy, I didn't really meet him. It was more like online, right? Yeah. I'm sorry.
I think it was during the ICO craze,
Yeah,
and Matt wanted some allocation.
Yeah.
He's like,
So I
hey,
can't
can
recall
you give
now.
me some allocation? I was like, okay, Etherscan, good.
Yeah, cool. So now that he mentioned it, that's right. It was like 2017. Yeah. So I saw Loy, this young PhD student from NUS, right? Had this brilliant idea. So in 2017 it was just much more easier. I think I pinged him online and said, hey Loy, let's chat, right? So that chat led to one thing another, and I think we've been able to build a very long friendship and relationship since then. We've helped each other in different parts of our journey when times were tough. So I do appreciate that friendship with Loy and partnership. And that's kind of when I met TN, right? So I know this TN was still young, but younger back then, a really aggressive BD guy going out there and stuff like that. And I think when we also kind of invested in some of the early projects that TN did. So it's quite a interrelated relationship. Yeah.
And I think we didn't really cover that much, but Loy, how did you find TN? How did you hire him to join the Kyber team?
I think it was a very natural kind of decision, right? I mean, back then I was about to, I knew that I could start something, but I didn't really finalize what it was and stuff, right? And I was a PhD researcher, technical person. I obviously needed some help, right? So I met TN via, I think, either a referral, some introduction or some meetup. Because Singapore back then, I think there were probably 20, 30 people that are interested in crypto, and you keep seeing the same people in the meetups, right? So I think, and also we are, I think, at the same age, and we'll probably get along well with each other. So I just invited him to join the team, and it was great to have him to support us.
This might be a biased question because I helped to organize a meetup, but you guys have mentioned meetups a couple of times. How much have meetups or local communities helped you guys to form a team or to help build your team? Maybe Tien?
I think in the early days, it definitely helped. I'm a strong believer in having that human touch, just meet in person, because you can tell a lot more about an individual when you are physically present in the same venue, right? Versus online or digital connections. I would say back in the days, there was the difference between the meetups back then and now is that I feel that back then the attitude towards like Ethereum and the entire sector as a whole was more innocuous. Like everyone's in, like most people were in because they wanted to learn about the tech. Now it's different. I think the attitude is, what's the next meme coin, right? Can't help with that. That's the reality. Yeah, but I think back in the days, to get to know people, you go to meetup, you find similar, you come across people with similar interests a lot more easily. These days, it's harder to tell. So yeah, we probably have to resort to other avenues to like streamline or filter out like how to identify individuals who have similar interests. Yeah, but I guess like that's just a function of time and also the growth of the sector.
And any thoughts from Matt and Loy? Utilizing communities, local communities and meetups to help you form a team or build your team.
I think it's, yeah, I mean, I think we actually like hire several good people from local meetups, right? I mean, it's important. Basically, like it's a lot better. It's a good like recruitment kind of like channel for us. You meet people there, you see how they interact. You ask them like the question that basically like usually like when you meet people, you don't tell them like, hey, we are looking for this position, right? But you see like how they do, how they interact with other people, what the characters is, and after that you are like, okay, this might be a good fit for the team, and you want to bring them on board and see how they, you know. I think it's a lot better than just like proactively like poaching people. Yeah.
Yeah. So we support ETKL, right? I probably wouldn't be on the stage here if it wasn't because of ETKL. That's where I kind of met Harith, right? Yeah, I think so. The key for the successful meetups that we've seen, like local grassroots meetups, is it definitely helps if there is an industry sponsor or supporter. So I think that's what we kind of try to do, but at the same time, trying to keep it as non-profit as possible. So I think that's the key point, and just providing a space where if people coming back or even people traveling through the region wants to stop by and they just want to share. So I think having that meetup basically allows you to create a readily available community that is able to share that part.
I think one thing that I want to add more is that like I think in Southeast Asia, probably like most people, most engineers, they're very shy, right, online, right? I mean, like you go to Twitter, you probably don't see a lot of like Southeast Asian engineers talking about like a lot of stuff, like because like one, I think English is probably not their first native language, and two, usually they don't argue online that much, right?
Oh yeah, they don't argue.
So I think the best way to know them is like to go to like, you know, conference or like, you know, local meetups in which like there's some particular topic that is of their interest, and you can like pick a lot of things from their brain, and you know, I think they share a lot more. Yeah.
And Matt, you mentioned you were 15 years as a Web2 founder in Malaysia. I think that's a very unique take that you can give. Like, what's the difference like between being a founder in Web2 versus Web3, and specifically as someone who was in Malaysia, in Southeast Asia?
So it's 15 years in Web2, but 10 years in Web3. So 10 years of Web3, right, is a long time. So one of the things I actually realized is I have to really think hard because it's been a while, and you kind of get used to the way things are done in Web3. But I think this something that kind of reminded me about this was, so we were at a dinner and we had a conversation with this person who's from Web2, and I think she actually shared one point. So she shared that she's moving from Web2 into Web3, and she said that one of the things that she found most stark was that the people in Web3 generally, especially with Ethereum, tend to be really friendly. They share a lot of information. You know, like in Web2, if you go around and ask a lot of stuff, right, people kind of get a little bit hesitant, a little bit cautious. But if you see the ethos in batteries, if you go around, you ask questions, right, a lot of folks are just extremely happy to share with you what they're doing and the tech stack and all. So I think for that matter, I appreciate and I'm thankful for being able to be part of that Web3 ethos. And you kind of have to be reminded of that sometimes. So I think that was helpful for me.
And for TN and Loy as well. So you both mentioned that you were researchers and you did a bunch of work in the space before you became founders. So does anyone in the audience or who's watching online, like, is that experience, how helpful or necessary is the experience to have before you start and found your own team? Tien?
Just a disclaimer, my research is nothing like Loy.
Yeah. It's still research.
Serious research. I'm a hobbyist. Well, I think my perspective is probably different from Loy. I think it helps to actually, like, starting out a company is difficult. And in order to, I think one key difference between a more successful company from everything else is having a unique perspective about a sector that you're operating in. Like, for example, right, a lot of people can be running money markets. Very simple, straightforward product with a clear product market fit. But then there will be differences between a product like Aave and Compound and everyone else. And of course, like now, gradually we're seeing products like Euler and Morpho gaining traction. These founders have very deep understanding about money markets, and they also are able to incorporate their unique perspective into their product. That can only come when you're deep in the sector. Like, put it simply, right? If I've not been involved in the space since my Kyber days, I don't think I would be able to pull out something like Pendle. That knowledge can come from research. It can come from direct involvement in a team that is operating in a certain segment of interest. It can come from anywhere. But really, I think the more important component here is really a deep understanding of the sector and then developing a unique perspective that can help develop a more interesting product, a more differentiated one.
And Loy, Tien mentioned you'll have a very different perspective.
I think in general over time, I think over the last like 10 years, I realized that I think Web3 is, or in general like crypto is the most rewarding industry for any academic researcher, right? So it's rewarding not just because of like the potential financial return. I mean, a lot of like good high-profile projects are run by academic founders, right? But also like, you know, being able to see like, you know, what you research on to be deployed, to be used by everyone over the world, right? I think that's the most rewarding experience. So before started Kyber, I had a few opportunities, right, to work on still blockchain research, but like in like say industry, big companies, big payment companies in the US.
Pay you more?
Sorry, what?
That they pay you more?
I mean, it's not, I mean, they paid okay. I mean, it was Visa Research, right? And they started like their blockchain research back in 2017. But I was like, you know, if I work here, it's going to take me years, right, in order like to see any of my research like getting deployed or getting used in practice. And it's going to be like patent after patents after patents, right? So that's the business model, right? And then I keep seeing like, you know, other people launching new protocols, new product, right? And like, I was like, I could do that as well, right? And, you know, it was a big inspiration. So eventually I decided like to work on my own startup, launch Kyber and get like people to use it. And over time, I also encouraged a lot of people like to, hey, if you want to do something, you know, just launch your own startup, right? Like do it in crypto, like forget about fintech, forget about like, you know, other stuff. I think with crypto, you launch for a global audience, you get like abundant of like funding and support and like, you know, users, right, from everywhere. it's the fastest, like, journey for you to see something from happening.
And on that note, Southeast Asia isn't very well known for having huge, like globally impacting tech companies, but we have 3 here. And just curious, like, do you know, like, is there some sort of secret sauce that you guys have had that you were able to create these global companies out of Southeast Asia when a lot of people in a lot of other industries were unable to do that? Matt, maybe?
So, I guess that depends on your personality and the individual itself. For me specifically, generally, I think if you look at, for the same fact that you mentioned, right, so if you look at Southeast Asia in general, right, perhaps with the exception of Singapore, generally we are often underlooked. No, it's like you're in Southeast Asia, it's not in Silicon Valley and stuff like that. So at least back then, maybe that's my chip on the shoulder. So that kind of motivated me to prove that we could build something out here. So that was one strong driving push over the last 10 years to show that we could build global products out of Southeast Asia. The second point, I guess for us was obviously to choose to work on something that obviously they were passionate about, and something that we had, and I shared this before, that we had a more level playing field. Level playing field meaning that, so like with a lot of traditional Web 2 apps, right, a lot of it hinges on the relationships that you had, the geographical location that you're based on. Like if let's say it's really fintech and stuff, being in places like New York and stuff has a lot of advantages. If it's a lot of front-facing consumer apps, obviously being in Silicon Valley helps a lot. So like, if we had done something along those lines, it wouldn't be on a fair footing. But with Web3, it's a much more fairer footing. It's access to data that's decentralized. Anyone can go out, you can grab it, you can do whatever you want with it, and you can't control that. The data is outflow, so it's everyone can compete on a slightly more fairer basis. So I think for us that was the 2 key points.
Okay.
I mean, no secret sauce. But I think, so Pendle, like, my product is the youngest of the lot. And I think I've had the fortune of looking at these 2 other guys building brands and having an influence in the space. And to me, that's inspiring. Because, like what Matt said, right, I think crypto as a whole is extremely accessible, and the playing field is a lot more level compared to the other sectors. So when I was thinking about like building a product, I look at Matt, I look at Loy, and I thought that if they're able, within Southeast Asia, build something that can reach a global audience and attain global success, I can do it as well. So I look up to these guys. And I think it helps to also dream big. Just because we're from Southeast Asia, it doesn't mean we're worse off. I actually think there's an abundance of talents here. A lot of us, maybe because of different exposure, we tend to think that it's better out there. But I can say, talents-wise, I mean, there's a plenty, right? Like in Malaysia and Vietnam, Singapore is small population, but highly concentrated. But like in Indonesia, even in Thailand, because of the population and just by the sheer fact of power of law, you have like 600 million people, 700 million people here. You can definitely find like the top 1-2% to be exceptionally talented, right? So just need to reach out to these people, build something great, and given the fact that like crypto is extremely democratizing, I think we can build something great.
I think cost plays an important role here, right? Like for startup, I mean, I'm not sure about others, but I think from my experience, I think we probably have to try different ideas before we find the one that actually works, right? And throughout that journey, it's going to take like 1 or 2 years at least, right? And you need to sustain the team, right, for that 1 or 2 years. And I think in South Asia, it's a lot more cost effective to do that, right? I mean, you can survive in like Bangkok and probably Hanoi and KL with like $500-600 per month. Not sure about KL, right? I haven't lived there. But yeah, I mean, I think you have that ability, you have that I would say, advantage compared to like other higher developed market. And you get to go through like different life cycle products, different ideas, check them out and see whether launch it, see whether it works. If it works, great, like let's scale it, let's try fun, right? If it doesn't, let's just move on to a new one. And also like one more thing is, like Tian mentioned, the amount of talents, the amount of engineers here is abundant, right? Like, if you want to scale people, probably next month you can get like 10, 20, 30 more easily. So.
And staying with Loy, so if there are any people who are not from Southeast Asia and who want to hire devs or other talent from out of Southeast Asia, they might have heard, it's cheap, they maybe, some would speak good English, they're very hungry. In your experience working with talent out of Southeast Asia, what would you say to these other builders who might be interested to hire people from here?
Working with, sorry, what?
So if I'm not from Southeast Asia and I'm looking to hire someone from here, like what would be some advice or some kind of thoughts?
I think you just try to get people from Pando, either Scan or Kyber. That's the best way to. Just kidding. So I mean, that's what happened to a lot of our former team members, right? They got poached by other team from elsewhere. Basically, like say if the team is from the US and they're looking for some people in Asia, some engineer in Asia, usually they would look for like, all the people that are working for existing teams in Asia, right? And they're like, hey, we're going to pay you double. And it's still half the price that we're paying in the US. and we lost a lot of people to them. But it's okay because like, it's a fair market, right? If they can get a better opportunity, happy for them. And we'll get to work on the new engineers. But anyway, don't do that. I think in general, language is a big barrier, but I feel like it's getting improved a lot lately. All the young engineers, because they get to work on like, English in their training, in the college. So communication in English in writing is okay. Speaking might need some time for them, but I think probably in Malaysia it's not an issue, but like in other countries like Thailand and Vietnam and even like Indonesia, it's probably a big barrier. Other than that, I think everyone is hardworking, fast learner, young population. You have like, a lot of talents to recruit. Yeah.
So first off, I don't think 500-600 is enough to survive in KL. Second, tapping off on what Loy has mentioned also. So for that same reason, right? Again, generally in Asia, Southeast Asia, these are developing nations, right? So there's a high growth, and normally people here are actually quite hungry, right? So they want to improve their lives. I'm not saying people outside here aren't, but generally in South Asia, it's very strong drive. There's a strong drive, also a monetary incentive in order to improve your quality of life. So people really strive for it. I think they really work hard, and they don't take things too relaxed. A lot of people are just like, no, you got to make it. So you push hard, you study hard. It's very traditional, right, in Asia. Study hard, you work hard, and you do get a good job and stuff like that. And that's fairly what we see, at least in developing nations like in obviously Malaysia and Vietnam and Thailand and all the other countries, with the exception of Singapore, which is obviously already very much more global. Yeah, so other than that, going back to what like Loy mentioned, yeah, I know turnover is always an issue. Again, I think it's also working with teammates that, obviously money is important, but I think there are also other values there, other things that you can accomplish working in a team. So yes, money plays a large factor. I don't think it's the only factor. Sometimes it's also about the journey and the ability to grow and probably taking a little bit more forward, you know, like what happens after 5 years and stuff like that. And there's probably a bunch of other reasons that we can do it in a separate conversation.
Tien.
Oh, no, nothing meaningful to add. I think they covered all. And I think the stereotype's generally quite accurate.
Okay, then I'm not going to let you go. But the talent within Southeast Asia is extremely diverse, right? Because Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, all very different people. And I'm quite sure the three of you hire like people from across the region. So what are your kind of learnings from handling these very diverse cultures within the same team? Tien, I'm going to start with you, because you skipped the last one.
Yeah. Can I defer it to Matt?
Okay, Matt first.
Let me go ahead and take a stab at that, because we're actually quite diverse culturally. So again, Malaysia is in the middle of everything, right? The three main different groups and races, right? So I actually think diversity is a strength. I know it's always been said, it sounds cliche, but I think it is. It is, especially when it comes to, again, I guess what we're building, right? So for us, some of the stuff we're building is a little bit more front-facing. So I think having perspective from different folks from different backgrounds and different perceptions, I think helps, right? So I know if we're building something and someone says this color looks good, and someone else says this color looks not so good. So I've actually found a lot of it has some sort of cultural elements for what it is. And somehow they'll be able to jive on a color that's a little bit more neutral. So and that kind of works for us. Having said that, other than that, nothing critical, very minor stuff, probably like so let's say like this trip we're making here with the team, right? So I guess, you know what's actually our biggest challenge or not? So our biggest challenge is actually figuring out where to go eat. The reason being, coming from different diverse backgrounds, there are like food requirements, for example, maybe it has to be kosher or halal, or maybe it has to be no alcohol and stuff like that. So actually that's this very trivial stuff, and somehow we actually manage, and we really find a balance, and there are sessions where it's with alcohol, and the sessions without alcohol, and vice versa, and somehow it works. And I think a lot of folks, it's a very unique perspective, one that I've grown up with and I treasure a lot.
Yeah, you mentioned to me earlier diversity by default, so I think that's a good catchphrase.
It is what it is.
Okay, Tien, are you ready?
No, I really don't see like major challenges. I think managing diversity is part and parcel of running a team. This happens regardless of where you're at. And of course, like Southeast Asia is relatively diverse, but there's also a lot of similarities in the way we perceive things. I think, yeah, by and large, Southeast Asians are generally motivated. And having that shared trait is helpful in trying to align team members. Everybody wants to win. So you just have to do a bit of reminder, and I think everyone can fall in line quite quickly.
Lloyd?
I would say if you want to, I think probably the best way to do that is to probably like have a trusted leader or manager in every country, and you just like deal with that person, right? and rely on that person to manage the team in that particular country. I think we did that because like back then Kyber had people in like Vietnam, Singapore, and like Israel and a couple of other countries. Because I think there are a lot of things that you don't know about the culture, about how people want and what people want, right? And I think having someone that you can rely on and to handle all of that issues for you and make sure that everyone works well together, I think is great.
All right, and this question I've had from a lot of people, actually. Not sure by coincidence or by design, but somehow, so Kyber and Pendle are very, very strong companies in DeFi, and Etherscan and CoinGecko, for example, are very, very strong in kind of data services. Is there a reason why Southeast Asia is birthing these champions in these two specific spaces within the industry? Does anyone here have an answer?
I'll speak on behalf of Malaysia. I think a lot of us don't want to end up in jail last time. So we chose data, which is much more clearer. Right now, it's not too bad. The regulatory landscape there's a lot more clarity. And I know it's just, you go early into the space, and like normally, typical Malaysians, you know, we have families and stuff like that. So, so we just want to navigate. And also, I think, navigate in an area that's considered relatively straightforward. Because, there's just different licenses and AML, KYC and stuff we need to go into. So, given that it wasn't clear for us specifically, so we chose that part. So, which is why you have like CoinGecko and Etherscan doing quite similar products with data that doesn't really touch the transaction flow like both of these guys are doing.
No.
I think for me it's a little different. Like I somehow found my way to Singapore, and like Singapore being a financial hub in the region, and also I think one of the more important financial hubs globally, we have a lot of exposure to financial products and instruments. And that has, of course, shaped how I think about finance. And it so happened that DeFi is one of the major narratives within crypto in the early days, and it continues to be the major driver of adoption. So it helps, I think, like from a product operator standpoint, just being physically in Singapore, the access to capital, the knowledge in financial infrastructure definitely helps how we think about product construct. Now, I am Malaysian by nationality, and as to how like some of these DeFi products can be traced to Malaysian founders, I'm not sure.
I think I can add a little bit. I think it's probably a little bit broader, right? I think the reason why we see a lot of like say DeFi and like data-oriented products coming out of Southeast Asia is because Southeast Asian founders are bad at selling, right? So we have like to build something that the product will sell for itself, right? So like DeFi, product market fit instantly from day one, right? Data product is the same. Everyone uses Etherscan these days because it's just the right product that people want. We are bad at selling a new narrative. It's really hard for Southeast Asian to do that, right? I mean, it's not just because English is not our native language. It's also because we don't have like big funds like A16Z or Pradam to stamp like $100 million US check on us and said, this is the new narrative, right? In South Asia, we don't have that big of the funds. So we have like to pick something that I think is product market fit, can generate revenue, can get users from day one, and we can just scale, right, from there.
All right, so we have a little bit of time left. This panel is called Debunking Myths, Building Out of Sea. So I want to check with you guys very quickly, answer, each one of you, whether each item is a truth or a myth. So first item, funding. Whether it's very difficult to get funding out of the country that you are based out of. Kyber just mentioned the country, and truth or myth?
Vietnam, I think it's a bit hard. Singapore, a lot easier. Yeah.
Yeah, same. Malaysia is a little bit more challenging. Singapore is easier.
Same, yeah.
Okay, infrastructure, whether it's the internet, having highways, having a strong like startup ecosystem, is it lacking or is it actually thriving? Loy, we'll just go in cycles.
Internet, I think it's good. I think internet in South Asia is actually extremely good compared to many other parts of the world. Startup ecosystem, I think it's still growing. It's not there yet, but it's growing. Yeah.
And as a city, like highways, buildings?
I think it's okay. I mean,
Yeah, so Malaysia, no issues, very strong infrastructure, good buildings, relatively, in comparison, good roads. And in terms of the internet connectivity, it's decent, very decent. So I say that's mid. That, yeah.
I guess like it really varies from city to city, right? So if you look at Singapore, it's definitely like pretty top-notch in public infrastructure, transportation, internet, everything is good. KL is also like pretty high up there. But when it comes to Jakarta, for example, it's extremely renowned for like traffic, like massive traffic jam. Internet connectivity, I guess it's good. But a lot of time, like if you were to do a business in Jakarta, a lot of time will be wasted in trying to get from one spot to the other. So I think in Southeast Asia, it depends on where you go.
Okay. And this one is just for TN. Well, Loy as well, because you spend time in Singapore. But Singapore cost very, very high. Truth or myth?
Myth. I think Singapore, yes, in terms of published reports, the cost is actually very high. But the good thing about Singapore is that there's always a range. So if you want to, like, take transportation, for example, established public transport is actually extremely affordable. But if you want to own a car, it's going to cost a lot of money. In the same way, when it comes to food and daily necessity, you have like extremely affordable option with like $2-3 US dollars a day. You can, a meal. You can find something very, it can fill your tummy. But of course, if you want fine dining, a 3-star restaurant will cost you $1,000, something like that, right? Yeah. So that's how I think about Singapore.
Loy, since you spent some time there?
if you just live there alone, it's very okay. It's affordable, right? But if you need to, say, build a family or build a team there, it's going to be very costly. Very costly. Yeah, but I think back to the previous question, I think Singapore is probably the most developed, like, startup in terms of like ecosystem, right? Like you have like funds, you have like quality founders, you have people like visiting the country every now and then. So I think it's a vibrant crypto startup hub in South Asia. I think other countries probably don't have that luxury, that that intersection of people from all over the world try to stay there for a few months, learn the ecosystem, try to expand to South Asia or Asia in general, and they would want to set up base in Singapore. Yeah.
All right, and a couple of questions before we open it up for the audience. For people who are not from Southeast Asia, who are considering to move here to build a team or to join the team, any quick advice each one of you can give them? Tian first.
Go to Malaysia.
What? Go to Malaysia. Why?
It's like reliable infrastructure, cost is a fraction of that of Singapore, and you get good access to many parts of the world.
Or maybe I add it. So the team is in Malaysia, the founders are in Singapore. That's what we're seeing right now.
Raise the capital in Singapore and do the work in KL.
I would say you need to pick a base, right? I mean, I think there are several good bases in Southeast Asia, KL, Bangkok, and Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh.
Hanoi,
Singapore as well. But of course, like, if you're in Singapore, you have like to know what you want to achieve from there, right? Because the cost is high. But if you want to build a team, engineering team, KL is actually very good.
I think even Vietnam actually, Hanoi.
Ho Chi Minh is very active. Hanoi, you can
Saigon.
get great engineers too.
Yeah, great engineers there.
Yeah.
I also want to add, okay, so the reason why I thought about Malaysia, right, is because I think English, the general English proficiency in Malaysia is quite good. It was an English colony. So English can get you, quite far.
But I think engineering talent, Hanoi, Vietnam,
Of course.
Saigon,
Yeah, of course.
does it make sense? Yeah.
No contest.
All right, thanks for the panelists. That's all my questions. And we can open it up for audience to ask their question.
Thank you so much. Can we give a big round of applause to the panel? That was awesome. Okay, so we're into Q&A. If you don't know how to do or participate, you just need to take a snap of that QR code. You scroll to the bottom of the page and there's a link saying live Q&A. And yeah, just click the Q&A button and you'll be able to put up some questions. So let's get straight into some of the questions that are on the screen here. The first one is, do you see that there is a bigger wave of adoption of crypto in APAC now? Any one of the panelists can answer, or several.
I could say there are a lot more young people trading crypto than trading stocks these days in South Asia. Because I think it's just easy to understand for them. It's very easy to set it up and just,
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I agree with the point. Singapore, Vietnam, probably Vietnam especially, right? The number of active users on, say, like crypto exchanges is up only, and I think it's because it's just a lot more accessible, and like all these exchanges are putting strong efforts in trying to grow their presence and markets in several countries in Southeast Asia.
Yeah. And I think like regulation is getting better in a lot of the countries. Like I think I just met like someone from SCB, the biggest bank here. I think they launched an app for you to convert your USDC to Thai baht, and you can just spend immediately at the merchants. It's crazy. In Singapore, there are a lot of like crypto payment company now as well. Like you can just pay from, like cash out your crypto into debit card, and you can just pay from the debit card. I mean, it's getting to the point that I don't even need like to use my bank for most of the transactions these days. Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you. Let's move on to the next question. Are you guys hiring?
Oh yeah, so the next question.
Are you guys hiring?
Oh, wait, I thought it was the other one.
Well, apparently this one is very popular.
Let me jump to the other one, the city study of...
Okay, well, we can just get yes or no's, and then we can move on.
Yeah, hiring.
Yeah.
Obviously we're hiring. Yeah.
Okay, Etherscan's hiring?
I'm sure you're looking for good talents. Yeah. I recently started a Caliber Ventures builder as well. So if you are looking to do your own startup, talk to me. I only do like 2 every year, so
You're hiring 2 people now?
We are looking actively for new founders. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But for us, like in short, yes, we are always on the lookout for talents. Positions varies.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so earlier part of the conversation, I think New York was mentioned as a city that has like high kind of FaceTime networking. Maybe networking opportunities have been less in Southeast Asia. And also someone in the panel mentioned that Southeast Asians don't like arguing online as much. So the question is, what are some tips that you have for people here based in Southeast Asia to better tap into like the global or online networking for Web3?
So we don't like arguing. So I would say it's actually changing. So I've seen, I don't know, maybe it's well actually, I guess like for us, that's one of the challenges, like actually going out there and creating that awareness and arguing online. Somehow it just goes against that whole ethos. But having said that, I think we've seen some of the newer projects. So I think, so we actually had this conversation just recently. So this project, I think Mega Eat, this founder, Brother Bing or whatever. So I think she has a very strong presence and is able to capture. So I think that perception is changing. A lot of the projects coming out are able to do a good job at, and hopefully we can learn a little bit on how that's done.
So I guess it's like about gaining more visibility online. Any other sort of networking tips?
Maybe I can chip in as well. So what we found with the local community in KL is for the young people especially, just join hackathons. There are a bunch of online hackathons and the prize pool can be quite big. So there's a kind of a cohort of builders who just join these hackathons and use the winnings to go fund themselves to go to the next hackathons. And from there, you're introducing to people based on what you've built and not based on what you're talking about.
Yeah, I guess another way is to also join all the big project, big companies in the region, right? And from time to time, we need to send people to events, conferences to learn what others are building, right? So that's also a good opportunity for you to network and to basically learn from the best.
Okay, great. I think that segues nicely to the next question, which is, what are the best communities, in your opinion, to connect with other founders in each of your cities?
Yeah, EKL, for KL, EKL. It's about person to speak with.
Damn, I gotta shield you, eh? East KL, yes, for KL. And then crypto SG for basically I think anyone who's building something independent of sectors or ecosystem would have some form of connection with Nick and his team.
Wearing the ARC shirt, it's a crypto community based out of Asia.
Member ARC also.
Oh yeah, it's actually quite interesting, quite vibrant. They talk crypto all the time, even playing soccer, like some guys trading meme coin on the bench. So it's it's crazy.
I think even in Malaysia, the Paji community is quite strong.
Great, thank you. Got a couple more questions here. How is someone not to be overlooked as a deeply technical person moving to Southeast Asia from America? What should they do? So good, online versus meetups, or practical tech versus networking people? So someone's moving from America to Southeast Asia. How can they stand out and not be overlooked?
Be like Ross. No, I'm just kidding. 90%. He was security, right? So, no, I think meetups definitely. When we first started out, even in Silicon Valley in 2015, 2016, the way we connected with the community back then there was through meetups. So I think the same still holds true here. Go for meetups. It's free. It's informal.
Anything else to add?
Just try to participate, right? Try to give talk, try to, be part of some team. And I think in general, we are very happy to meet new people. If you are in town, just, ping us and ask for a meeting or office tour or something. Happy to meet new people all the time. Yeah.
Great. So let's talk about the bull market. What are you guys excited to see in the cycle of the bull market? And if you'd like to add anything on the Southeast Asian point of view, what do you think, or how do you think it may impact Southeast Asia? So generally, as well as focus on Southeast Asia.
I guess with bull market, we can expect more new joiners, and with more new joiners, I think it's also reasonable to expect newer and creative use cases that might be native to Southeast Asia. After all, I think from a media consumption perspective, people in Southeast Asia consume media very differently from many nationalities in other parts of the world. So I would imagine that people who are native to Southeast Asia would take opportunities perhaps a bit differently from individuals in other nationalities, in other countries. Maybe things that are, I wouldn't be surprised if there are things that are native to, say, like Vietnam, that might not have a lot of adoption outside of the country. Exact use case, hard to say, but I think this is a reasonable expectation.
Okay, I think this, like, Matt, if you want to add, no, okay. I think this is a slightly similar question, which is maybe connected, which is what should people build here? Any ideas, like the kind of dApps or even the infrastructure built in Southeast Asia?
I think end of the day, you have to really like see what's your strength, what's your weakness, right? And like who do you have in the team? And decide on the product that really fit to your background. We actually spend a lot of time like talking to the founders and also like try to analyze and help them realize what should be the best thing for them to build. And of course, like if they get like advisor, like talk to people like Tien and Matt and see what they think is cool to build. I think it's also like a good source of like ideas. Yeah.
So just want to add there, choose something that you're passionate about and that you're good at. Go for those two and you have a very high chance of success, regardless of what it is. Thank you.
Okay, well, unfortunately, we've run out of time. Thank you so much to everyone who's put up questions. Maybe feel free to talk to the speakers after this panel's over. So let's give a big round of applause to our panelists. It's been awesome to have you guys.